I was holding the truth in my hands when my son's face broke. "The baby isn't yours, David," I said, and the world seemed to tilt, every memory of the last 3 months sliding out of place. Before that envelope, I had only a stack of small suspicions and a mother's stubborn instinct. After it, we had facts. But if you want to understand how a lie that big takes root, you have to hear how the ground softened first, how an ordinary Tuesday morning, a sugary voice, and a single social media caption set a life on fire. I'm Sandra Mitchell, 64, former RN, mother to David, and until recently a woman learning how to be both proud and patient while her son built a life. When David married Jessica Parker, 27, bright as a boutique window, all babe and breathy laughter, I tried to be generous. New love comes with turbulence. People smooth out. That's what I told myself the night she arranged a surprise date during our weekly coffee and called it growth. That's what I repeated when David said, gently, that Jessica needed calm energy, and my excitement about becoming a grandmother felt like too much. I've noticed how easy it is to call a mother overbearing when a gate needs guarding. The gate shut completely the morning I phoned to ask when I could meet my grandson. Jessica's voice dripped as sweet as syrup. "Oh, Sandra, Connor's already here. Born 3 days ago. We only wanted special people there. You understand special people? 32 years of raising a boy into a good man, and I wasn't special enough to stand at the edge of new life." I hung up with my hands shaking. Then I did what every shut-out woman in a digital world learns to do. I looked at Instagram. There he was, Connor beautiful, dark-haired, and everywhere, nestled in the crook of Jessica's mother's arm, swaddled like a secret in photos with her sister, and bottle-fed by Tyler Brooks, my son's best friend since freshman year. The caption that stopped me cold read, "Uncle Tyler already wrapped around this little guy's finger," and Tyler's expression wasn't new. Uncle awkward, it was practiced tenderness. Beneath that, Jessica's cousin Marcus wrote, "Looks exactly like me. Must run in the family. In the family." I stared at the screen, at the line of a jaw I'd seen beside David's 1,000 times at holidays, at the way Connor's tiny fingers clung to an adult knuckle marked by a thin white scar I recognized as Tyler's. It was the accumulation that unnerved me, the practiced hold, the complacent smile, the word family tossed like confetti by people who'd barred the door to mine. 8 years in labor and delivery had left me with habits I couldn't unlearn. I don't spy, that's the word people use when they want you to stop seeing, but I do observe. When a burst pipe flooded David and Jessica's apartment, they came to my house for a few days. Connor bundled in a blue blanket that still smelled like brand new detergent. Jessica floated through my kitchen like a polite tornado, cooing about routines while keeping the baby just beyond my reach. "He just ate," she'd say. "Might spit up. He's fussy today. Needs mommy." Meanwhile, Tyler's access was unlimited. He could soothe. He could feed. He could change diapers with quiet competence while David worked late to afford the bigger place Jessica said they needed. "Tyler's so natural with him," she purred. Too natural, I thought. And I tucked the thought away because thoughts can be bullets if you fire them too fast. Every morning at 6 a.m., Jessica took a call in the kitchen, voice low, steps pacing. "No, you can't come here. Sandra's already suspicious. We have to be smart." When I asked, she smiled. "My sister. Boyfriend drama." Except her sister worked nights in Portland, and exhaustion has a different sound than strategy. I kept listening, not because I wanted to be right, but because I couldn't stand being blind. Connor spiked a fever on a Thursday afternoon, and the nurse part of me eclipsed the mother. "Hospital," I said, grabbing a go bag without thinking. Saint. Mary's smelled like it always had antiseptic and adrenaline, and the intake questions fell into their old rhythm. Father's blood type, the nurse asked. Jessica barely hesitated. "Oh, positive," she said. "Same as mine. It was a small claim to anyone else. To me, it was a bell. 2O positive parents cannot produce an AB positive child. That's basic genetics. The kind you can explain with colored jelly beans and a napkin." I would have let it go if my mind hadn't also retrieved a casual remark Jessica once made about David's father being AB negative memorable because it's uncommon. If David's dad was AB negative and I am O positive, then David cannot be O positive. Either Jessica was tossing blood types like confetti, or the numbers had a reason she didn't expect me to notice. Dr. Martinez ordered newborn blood work standard for a fever, and Jessica flinched. A quick pallor that wasn't new mother nerves so much as a person seeing a trap close. While we waited, I drifted past the nurse's station like a woman looking for coffee and read the chart the way old skills let you read upside down from 3 feet away. Blood type AB positive. My breath left in a single, flat exhale. AB positive. I'd heard Tyler joke at office blood drives that he was a universal receiver. AB positive. The math tightened into a net if David was A positive, if Jessica was O positive. An AB positive child did not follow that tree. I didn't confront anyone in the fluorescent lights of an emergency room. Truth can be a scalpel. You pick your incision point. Back home, I asked David, lightly, over coffee that had gone cold. "Your blood type?" He blinked. "A positive." Why I showed him Connor's result on my phone and watched comprehension bloom slow and terrible. "So either she lied," he said quietly, "or Connor isn't mine." He said it like a patient names a pain they can finally locate, relieved and ruined all at once. "I want proof," he said. "Not guesses, not blood type charts. Proof." So we planned a test quietly, carefully, because you only detonate a life once. And while we waited for the truth to arrive in an ordinary envelope, the house sounded like it always had a kettle's soft burble, a baby's whimper. The small hushes of a woman walking on eggshells that she'd carefully laid herself. 3 days later. The envelope arrived innocuous cream paper, a thin weight that belied what it carried. David sat at my kitchen table, hands trembling so hard the flap tore jagged. He read the page once, twice, lips moving soundlessly, and then he laid it flat like it might leap. Probability of paternity, 0%. His voice cracked on the word 0, as if he could speak it into a different number. I reached across, but he flinched not from me, but from the reality that the baby he'd sung to in utero and held in midnight rocking chairs was never his. That evening, I gave them space. The shouting started before the door closed behind me. "How could you do this to me?" David's anguish was loud enough for the neighborhood. Jessica's response was shrill denial. "Those results are wrong. Someone tampered with them." She doubled down, even as her foundation crumbled, spinning lies faster than silk. I heard David shout back, "My mother isn't bribing labs. Jessica, stop insulting both of us." Then the silence stretched until I thought it might suffocate. "Is Tyler the father?" His voice was a whisper that shook the windows. Jessica sobbed, hedged, then finally screamed, "Yes, he's the father, happy now." And just like that, the world reset itself around truth. The timing was cruelly perfect. Tyler walked in moments later, keys jangling like a death knell. "What's all the noise?" he asked, and David's reply was venom. "We were just discussing you." Silence, then Tyler's muttered confession. Yes, he knew. Yes, he'd been ready to let his best friend raise his son. The betrayal was so layered it felt surreal. I stepped into my own living room, calm where they were, chaos. "Hello, Tyler," I said pleasantly. "Lovely of you to drop by." If sarcasm were a blade, mine was honed. Jessica collapsed into mascara-streaked tears. Tyler froze like a boy caught sneaking liquor. And David, my son, stood broken between them. "I'm going for a drive," he said finally. "When I come back, I want you both gone. Take Connor and get out." The door slammed, and the sound was both an ending and a mercy. Jessica turned to me, desperation naked. "Sandra, please, help me fix this." I laughed, not cruelly, but incredulously. "Fix deception, fix fraud. That's not in my skill set." She begged. She spun biology into sentiment. Love doesn't care about DNA, but love cares about trust, and hers was counterfeit. She confessed then what she'd never meant to say aloud, that she'd known about David's inheritance. That marriage plus a child unlocked a trust fund. The baby had been both shield and key. My blood went cold even as I pitied the young woman so tangled in her own greed, she forgot children aren't tools. David returned, face carved from resolve. "Are you packed?" he asked Jessica. She pleaded, she wept, but he remained steel. "You married me for money, carried another man's child, and lied every day. That isn't marriage, that's fraud." He handed her suitcase to Tyler, who slunk outside. Jessica whispered, "I really did love you." David's reply was a knife's twist. "Maybe, but you loved yourself more." And then she was gone. Connor in her arms, the house echoing with absence that felt cleaner than presence had in months. Peace didn't last. Desperate people rarely fade quietly. Jessica launched a social media campaign within days, tragic posts about abandonment, hashtags about single motherhood strength, curated victimhood that drew sympathy from strangers. When people show you who they are, believe them. She wrote beneath a selfie with puffy eyes. Comments flooded in with heart emojis and encouragement, ignorant of the DNA test sitting in my drawer. David grimaced as he scrolled. "She's painting me as the villain." I placed a hand on his shoulder. "Let her paint. Truth isn't water-soluble." But when sympathy didn't pay rent, Jessica turned to threats. One morning, David shoved his laptop toward me. "She wants child support, says I acted as a father, so I'm legally obligated." Her email was a masterpiece of manipulation requests for health insurance, rent, even therapy for Connor's supposed trauma at being abandoned at 3 weeks old. "Can she do this?" David asked. I phoned my sister-in-law, Rebecca, a family attorney. She read the email with clinical disgust. "She's fishing. Fraudulent conception and 3 weeks of cohabitation don't create obligations. Call her bluff." Relief flickered across David's face, but it was fragile. The war wasn't over. Jessica's next call came sobbing. "Tyler disappeared, quit his job, left town. I have no money. Please, David, not for me, for Connor." My son's voice was steady, steel under sorrow. "Connor deserves parents who tell the truth. He didn't get that. Don't call me again." He hung up with hands trembling but eyes clear. For the first time, he was choosing himself. Then the unexpected visitor arrived, Carol Brooks, Tyler's mother, and practically family for 15 years. Her face was pale, her voice brittle. "He told me everything," she said. Tyler had run, unable to face fatherhood, hoping David would keep living the lie. Worse, she revealed pages of text messages Jessica blackmailing Tyler for rent money, formula cash, silence fees, Send me 200 or I'll tell David everything. Extortion woven into parenthood. David's jaw clenched until I thought it might crack. Carol wept for a son she barely recognized. She asked me to help financially. Said Connor was my grandchild. But I told her Connor deserves better than this. We sat together. 3 people bound by betrayal, piecing through the wreckage of 2 families shattered by one woman's lies. And still, it wasn't the end. Desperation has roots. And Jessica had not finished clawing for survival. Jessica's final spiral began the way all her schemes did, with a mix of drama and performance. She showed up at my house uninvited one rainy evening, mascara smudged, Connor fussing in her arms. "Sandra," she gasped. "Please, just let me explain." I stood in the doorway, blocking her entry. "You've explained enough." I told her. "Go home." But she wasn't leaving without another attempt to wedge herself back into David's life. "Tyler's gone," she said desperately. "He doesn't want to be a father. David's the only man who can give Connor stability. He still loves me. I know he does." The audacity nearly took my breath away. Love doesn't survive betrayal. "Jessica," I said, "and stability doesn't come from lies." Her desperation turned strategic. Soon after, David began receiving emails not just from Jessica, but from supposed concerned friends who parroted her narrative abandoned young mother, heartless ex-husband, cruel mother-in-law. Each message dripped sympathy for her and condemnation for us. "She's rallying strangers now," David muttered one night, staring at his inbox. I told him what I believed. Noise is temporary. Truth is permanent. He nodded, though the weight of it all still bent his shoulders. 3 weeks later, Jessica shifted tactics again. She filed an official claim demanding financial support, arguing that David had acted as a father during Connor's first month and therefore established responsibility. Rebecca, ever the professional, dismantled it. Judges don't award child support to a man proven not to be the father after 3 weeks of deception. She's wasting time and money. We drafted a firm legal response naming Tyler as the true father. Jessica's bluff collapsed within days, but she wasn't done. She began leaving voicemails at 2 a.m, sobbing about Connor's needs, about Tyler vanishing, about how her parents couldn't shoulder everything. Her voice teetered between genuine panic and practiced manipulation. But David no longer bent. "She chose this path," he said quietly, deleting another message. "I won't follow her down it." The call that shifted everything didn't come from Jessica. It came from her mother. "Mrs. Parker phoned on a Tuesday afternoon, her voice tired. "Sandra, I don't know what to do with her anymore. She's back in Ohio with us, working at the hardware store, therapy twice a week. She's trying. But..." She trailed off, and I could hear the exhaustion of a woman carrying a daughter's wreckage. "Connor's healthy. We're helping raise him. But she's broken." I thanked her for the update, then sat in silence after the call. Broken wasn't a word I'd ever associate with Jessica, but perhaps even manipulators reach the end of their rope. David processed the news with quiet relief. "Good," he said. "Connor deserves stability. Maybe she'll finally give it to him." He still ached he always would, but he wasn't drowning anymore. For the first time in months, his shoulders eased. His laughter came easier. He began to rebuild work, friends, even allowing himself to imagine dating again. He admitted one night over coffee, the hardest part wasn't losing Connor. It was losing faith in myself. How could I have been so blind? I took his hand. "You weren't blind." You were lied to by someone skilled at deception. Trusting isn't weakness. David, it's strength. It means you're capable of love. Time proved the truth. Jessica faded into the background, posting occasional curated updates about being a strong single mom. But the comments now came from family members encouraging her therapy, not from strangers swooning over her resilience. Tyler remained gone, a ghost in Seattle working construction, sending sporadic money, but no affection. Connor grew in the care of his grandparents, surrounded by people who, whatever their flaws, wanted his well-being above all. Jessica's power waned because her power had always been built on performance, and performances end. For David, though, life was beginning anew. 6 months after the implosion, he came to dinner with a shy smile. "Mom, I want you to meet someone." Sarah Chen walked into my kitchen carrying a small bouquet, paint smudges still on her fingers, eyes bright with honesty. She was no Jessica, no designer heels, no syrupy charm. She was warm, direct, real. "Mrs. Mitchell," she said, "David's told me how much you mean to him. I hope we can get to know each other." Within minutes, I saw the difference. Sarah didn't try to wedge herself between us. She didn't perform. She simply cared for my son, openly and without agenda. Watching them together was like exhaling after holding my breath for a year. They teased each other gently, shared stories freely, and when David stepped out to take a call, Sarah didn't switch masks or probe for secrets. She simply asked, "How are you doing with all of this?" I realized then that my son had finally found someone who loved him. Not his money, not the illusion of security he could provide, but him. As Jessica's story wound down in obscurity, David's life bloomed again. Proof that sometimes the truest revenge is simply moving on, building better, and refusing to live in lies. A year later, I sat in a folding chair in Sarah's parents' backyard. Sunlight dappling through maple leaves as David took his vows. There were no designer gowns, no orchestrated performances, just honesty woven into every word. "I promise to always tell you the truth, even when it's hard," Sarah said, her voice steady. "I promise to love your family as my own, and I promise never to make you choose between people you love." When David kissed her, the applause was soft but full, and I felt tears slide down my cheeks, not of sorrow this time, but of peace. My son had survived betrayal and found a woman who understood that trust is the only true wealth. During the reception, I caught a glimpse of a phone screen, Jessica's Instagram, still hanging on in its way. A grainy photo of Connor toddling across a carpet, captioned, "My beautiful boy is thriving, grateful for second chances and honest starts." Honest starts. The irony nearly made me laugh. She was no longer the golden-haired manipulator flaunting her perfect life. She was a young woman stripped bare, living back with her parents. Finally, maybe, learning the value of truth. Connor looked happy. That was all that mattered. Whatever Jessica became, at least the boy was safe, loved, and surrounded by people who would not use him as a pawn. David didn't even glance at the post. He was too busy laughing at Sarah's third-grade stories, paint still clinging to her hands, joy radiating as if she'd been meant for him all along. Watching them, I realized something important. Betrayal doesn't have to be the end. It can be the fire that tempers steel, the storm that strips away weakness, the lesson that makes us demand better from the people we let into our lives. Jessica had thought she was writing the story me. the overbearing mother. David, the gullible husband. Tyler, the loyal friend, but lies never hold their shape. Truth always rewrites. In the months that followed, David rebuilt not just his life, but his faith in himself. He and Sarah found a small house with a garden, nothing extravagant, but filled with laughter. He worked without exhaustion gnawing at him, no longer trying to prove his worth to someone who only wanted his inheritance. He confided once, over Sunday breakfast. The hardest part wasn't letting go of Connor. It was realizing I'd wasted years believing I wasn't enough. I reminded him gently, "You are always enough. The wrong person will never see it. The right one always will." He smiled, a smile lighter than I'd seen in years, and reached for Sarah's hand across the table. Sometimes I still think about Jessica, about Tyler, about the mess of lies that nearly destroyed my son. But mostly, I think about Connor, a boy who didn't ask to be born into a storm of deceit. My prayer is that his mother truly embraces those honest starts, that his father finds courage someday, and that he grows up knowing love untainted by manipulation. Because children deserve truth, families deserve truth, and truth, though it may arrive in the form of an envelope that shatters hearts, is the only thing strong enough to build from. Looking back, I see the lesson clearly. Sometimes the most powerful act of love isn't protecting someone from pain, but handing them the truth even when it breaks them. My son needed that truth to free himself, and giving it nearly destroyed us both. But it also saved us. We came through betrayal not by clinging to the past, but by refusing to live in lies. That's the lesson I hope others take from our story. Lies corrode, but truth, however sharp, heals. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place? Because sometimes saving someone you love means speaking the truth they're not ready to hear.